Hi there, Earth Nation. This is Amanda with the Activated Earth and the Mothership Project. We are continuing with our summit on the what, how, why of the quantum and how your life can be easy and in flow, and you can create miracles by tapping into quantum source energy. And I am here today with Andrea Luzon. She is the creator of the Awakening Freedom Method and the founder of Andrea Luzon International. Andrea believes every human deserves to live an awake, free, expansive life through reconnective healing, bioenergy healthcare, and legacy liberation coaching. That sounds really fancy. I can't wait to hear more about it. She teaches a simple process that reawakening your authentic love legacy, the unique, innate wisdom you embody and imprint on hearts and minds through your presence, words, and deeds. So, we talked at length before, and what I loved about your story was just the evolution of how you got to be where you are. And I would love to hear what your pivotal moment was and what your journey was that got you from where you began to where you are now. If you could give us that story.
Yes, I've heard it said before that everyone has a hero's journey or a heroine's journey. And it's a lot of times there, for a lot of people that are in this process of self rediscovery, it seems like there is like a lowest moment or a breaking moment. And for me, that was just a few Februaries ago. I had been at an engineering firm for 7 years, and as much as the firm was doing great things in the world, my role in it was not a great fit. And I realized that I just kept staying because I was feeling just really insecure about life. I wanted to stay for the health insurance, or I wanted to stay because, well, it's a top 20 Forbes best company. So I'm supposed to just stay here, right? And so Amanda and I have talked a little bit. For me, it was like giving my power away. After leaving my parents' home and going to college, then in my 20s was like my first experience with reawakening. I was following my bliss. I was journaling. I was writing poetry. I was traveling. I was tuning into the signs, kind of that whole one with the universe, going with your gut, going with your divine instinct. And then I returned to the Midwest, and I had a great job opportunity that I was utilizing, and it was really fun. And then I invested in a house. And so that was like my first big move as a adulting. My first big adulting move was this house purchase. And I will say I bought more house than I planned, like a bit of a bigger payment than I planned. And so I think that was one of those breaking points for me where like childhood trauma quickly surfaced. Like, so the coming from a place of lack, coming from a place of, oh my gosh, I don't think that I can support this. Like, just definitely a money story for sure. So the money piece happened, and then I met this amazing man, and we fell in love, and we're still married today. But what I did in my mind was, oh, married women, or women in getting ready to be married, do these kinds of things and make these kinds of choices and wear these kinds of clothes. So it felt like so I instantly like gave all my power away to like him, his family, his friends, to the Midwest, and none of them even knew. I was just like, no, 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 you all are going to decide who I am and how I function, and it's going to be fine. So, right around then was when I started with the engineering firm, and very soon after getting hired, it was clear that the job wasn't as described. It wasn't as well. I wasn't as well suited for it. It was just not. It wasn't a good fit, and I wasn't happy. But I just kept staying, and then we got pregnant and had children. We have twins. We got pregnant with twins, and so it was like, oh well, now I really have to stay because that's what responsible people do. So then there was this like it was like every couple of years there, I would get a sign. They even did this awesome like personality matrix test that basically said, I should not be at that kind of job. It was more like a magnanimous, people-oriented work was definitely with the test results. And then at the company, I was like an analyst. So I would get signs every few years that like I really need to shift something, but I would deny it. I would talk myself out of it. Like my head would say no.
Mhm.
Um, and then it finally just came to a crisis moment where like huge panic attack. Um, just called my husband home from work, almost getting to the lunch hour, and said like, I can't stop crying. I don't want to go back there ever. I just, something is wrong. Something's really, really, really wrong. And the crying just continued and continued for many days. And then finally I didn't go to the job the following Monday, but then finally, oh, and I called a friend who had studied spiritual psychology and has really been she's made a huge imprint on the healing community. And she stood for me and was like, you get to shift. You get to like, you need to go study spiritual psychology in California, because otherwise you're just going to keep having this crisis every few years. And then you're just going to die an old lady who regretted not changing her life. So and then there were many other steps, but the breaking point, if that's kind of that really shifted me, that shifted my journey to invest in myself,
Mhm.
get back on my spiritual, like get back into the self-awareness path that I'd been on pre-marriage, the path that I'd been on. So, and then that began the study of spiritual psychology, which is such a beautiful, which is a part of the Awakening Freedom Method, and then also the energy healing. So I came across Dr. Eric Pearl's book called The Reconnection. Heal others, heal yourself. And it's a hands-free, hands-off modality that is all on the quantum field. And it's really about tuning into someone's frequencies, clearing what's not working, coming to neutral, and then accelerating or like catalyzing in the direction that the person and the universe have agreed to move. And then the practitioner completes this beautiful 333 shape, energetic like completion. So I studied that, and then I declared I was going to come out in this way. And then for the last few years, like how best to serve people, possibly in the middle of a transition themselves, or knowing that they want one, or not knowing how to create change in their life. Like that's been the last few years, is combining all of that wisdom and experience and then bringing it to people who are asking for it.
Yeah. That journey for some of us can take a while. And I know that your goal, one of your goals really must be to help people not take as long as you did. And I'm wondering, what are some of the key things that you learned about yourself that's important for everybody who's listening to know that
Mhm.
they can take in right now
Mhm.
and apply to themselves and move along faster?
I think, yeah. So for me, what has kept me going on this reawakening path is just trusting that I'm worth it. Like grounding yourself in maybe having a mantra or a morning practice or spending time in nature or whatever. But one of the cornerstones, the pillars that I teach in my program is I am whole. So knowing that you're whole, knowing that you're not broken, knowing that you don't need to be fixed, you're already as the universe made you. So you're already whole. You're worthy. You're absolutely worthy of creating whatever the knocking on your heart is. You are worthy of following it and making it come true. Like
Yeah.
absolutely. And no one should be able to tell you otherwise. And then lastly is that you are divinely wise.
Mhm.
Your intuition, the knocking is like the wisdom. Like when people say, I felt it in my gut, or I don't know, but I just knew. To In my teaching, I believe that that is you tuning into like your source energy, like you're tuning into your divine wisdom. So
Yeah.
I love to start with just kind of expanding their awareness to kind of get out of if there's any stuckness or funk, those three of wholeness, worthiness, and wisdom just feel like a great jumping off point.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
So in your work, I think we all know those things. We all feel like those are truths, and then we can't convince ourselves that it's true for us.
Yeah.
So with your work that you do, how do you help people get past that?
Yes, that is a great question. I have been teaching on a lot of us can do amazing things through willpower alone. We can do really amazing things. Of course, we're human, we're amazing creatures. And yet I find if you have support, if you have guidance, and if you have accountability, that you can keep the great change that you've made and you can extend it longer because perhaps you're in a group, like you've joined a mastermind of individuals who are on the same, maybe it's your business path, or maybe it's your spiritual reawakening path. But oftentimes the individuals that are coming into that sort of group, they're ready to support you. They're wanting support, and they're also, isn't it amazing how we're so generous with others and then we're so kind of, we can be so cruel to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I find the community, so guidance, so having a guru or a mentor, it could be a book study as well. I do find that human interaction, however, really amplifies. Like I think we are beings that are meant to be in connection. So guidance, support, accountability, and then lastly, courage.
Mhm.
So that piece, and this is the part where like I can support you with guidance. I can create a community. I have a community that will offer support. And then accountability is another piece of it. That's what I offer. That's what I found was lacking in a lot of other transformation work is that who's like, yes, we all made these great declarations, but who's gonna like ping me on Thursday and say, hey, how's that project going that you like, are you
Yeah.
meditating every day? Or like, are you walking your dog twice a day like you said you would? Whatever it is. But how is this container in particular going to help me stay accountable? Or is it just like, yay, hoorah, saying words, but then not? There gets to be action.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then lastly, the courage. So the three ingredients are what I guess I'm telling you a little bit more of the what, but then also we could get into the how.
That's okay. I have a how question coming up,
Okay, great. Okay, wonderful.
that is like popped up from what you've been talking about, but I want to make sure you're finished with that thought
Yeah.
first.
No, I appreciate the question. Guidance, support, accountability, and then the fourth ingredient only kind of bubbled up. Like we do get to tell the individual, like, this is going to be a little bit challenging. Like, not everybody decides to reawaken to why they're not fulfilling their dreams. Not everybody's ready for that. Some people are just they're just in survival mode. They're just in the tunnel. Or some people say they're in the matrix, you
Yeah.
know? And some people aren't ready. That final ingredient of courage, that makes the other three work. You're willing to receive guidance. You're willing to ask for support. You're willing to give support. And then you're willing to have someone hold you accountable. Because some of us don't want to, it's like, oof, I'll say I'll do it, but I don't want you to remind me that I said I would do
I have that
it.
problem too.
Yeah, just like
I think
me.
it's a common affliction.
Yeah, yeah. And we're all on the journey.
Yeah.
We're all on the journey.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is a description of the container, and
Mhm,
how the container is there to help the individual. But you mentioned a word, and that was connection.
mhm,
And that was a few minutes back. And I would love to hear you expand on why connection is important to your
mhm,
work and what that connection looks like.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, I guess it would be sort of like when you read a book and it's teaching you how to, I mean, I don't know why this is popping up, but let's say you read a book to learn how to fix a dishwasher. Cool, it's a great concept. And let's say you have it pretty solid and maybe someday you can do it. But it's not until you like practice like touching the parts or playing with the parts. So when we read a book that might be supporting us in maybe narrowing down our vision for this life, narrowing down our purpose. What do I want to dream? I want to have a vision. And then why am I not how do I manifest? Like, how do I create the vision? So we could read about that all day. And maybe for some of us, that would be the catalyst. That would be the liftoff, and we would start creating. For other people, I feel like it's the seeing, oh, like witnessing, like in the group environment, when you witness someone kind of have their aha moment of like, oh man, I've totally been doing that. Like I've really been like sticking my foot in my mouth and not having this deeper relationship with my sister or partner or whatever, someone in my family, like, oh, I've been kind of perpetuating a pattern, and that's possibly blocking me feeling like having a deeper relationship with so and so. But so when you're talking about connection, and I'm thinking about the group environment, I think a big part of it is witnessing other people on their journey, like witnessing someone having a breakthrough or witnessing someone be vulnerable. Maybe they cry, maybe they share a painful story from the past. And simply being, even if it's virtual, even if it's a bunch of faces on a screen, witnessing someone have that opening, I feel like it opens us. And I think it amplifies our journey. And we suddenly are able to absorb more of what's our true potential is. Like, oh my gosh. Like the light bulb goes on for us a little bit as we witness someone else's light bulb kind of like their heart opens and your heart opens.
I'm hearing the word synergy. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Like it feels very catalyzing
yeah.
because you're witnessing one another. It's like, I think there, oh, I'm trying to remember who the quote is from, but wherever, I mean, it's also biblical, like wherever two or more are gathered in my name,
Right.
greater things will come. And I
Yes.
feel like that's, yeah, like, so if we come together and we are excited about a journey that we're on, or we're supporting each other and having our own breakthroughs, I think you're right. Synergistically, it's like all of a sudden everyone rises.
Yeah. And okay, so this is sparking another direction we could go, because you did mention the matrix,
Mhm.
and I view the matrix as just this construct that that is a reflection. It's reflecting back to us what we believe. And if we create this synergy where people are lifting themselves up and moving into this wholeness that you were speaking of, what do you think that does to our entire reality?
Exactly. I think it amplifies.
Yeah.
I love the concept of it's been raining here all day, and I think we've actually had record rainfall. Where I am, it's not even noon, and we've already had a record, like
Wow.
record one day rainfall for our region. Anywho, but yeah, I left a bunch of containers outside because I was doing projects. Every single one of them is full. And what we don't even realize is that even so, just a few hours of one drop at a time, and now the containers are overflowing. And so people don't think that
Mhm.
what they do matters. But it's, the butterfly effect. It's, you're sending ripples out into the world. It's magnetic, it's a propulsion. And so yeah, I think exactly what you said, Amanda, is that as each of us does our inner work, we raise the vibration of like the entire planet.
Yeah. 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 So I would love to hear what your clients get from your energy work. What happens when they receive that? And I'm wondering if the connection piece, if there's a connection piece inside that as well, just for the individual.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely hear the connection. There are two main, I was thinking about this earlier as I was just kind of getting ready for this interview with you. It seems like there are two main levels. Both are breakthroughs, and it seems that when my clients and I integrate through conversation after being in the energetic frequencies, I ask them some questions and we kind of dive into what their experience was during the energy portion of a session. It seems that the breakthroughs are typically around either what they want, like they seem to have more clarity around, oh, this is the year that I'm going to call in da 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 da. And for some, it might be like weight release. Maybe it's a partnership,
Okay.
spending time in nature. It'll just be this create the thing.
Mhm. Would you
So you're
mind
cutting out a
just
little bit.
repeating that? I heard partner, finding a partner, creating time
Yeah.
in nature. We had a little bit of a glitch right during that moment.
I said they're in two areas. It's either a breakthrough of something they want,
A breakthrough.
like a partnership, maybe it's travel, weight release. It could be whatever it is. It seems like it's a breakthrough around what they want. And then a lot of times what I'm hearing is it's almost like a breakthrough in hope,
In hope?
a breakthrough in that's the word that's coming forward. They'll receive a message about like their potential or about what's really, well, that sounds a little vague. For example, during a recent session, someone said that, so the message came in about groundedness,
Okay.
about being grounded. There's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of fluctuation and transition going on in this person's life. And a big message that came in was groundedness. So to allow yourself to be grounded. And then and that filled her with a lot of hope. She was like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, I just get to be, more present. I just get to be grounded and know that what all these other people, all these other things, it's, if I ground myself first, I will not be as affected by all of this action going on around me. And then the other piece that was the big download for her during this session was the word temporary. Like
Hmm.
what you're experiencing right now is temporary. And both of those things filled her with hope. It was like both of those things grounded her in her truth. And like you said earlier, Amanda, there's so much that we know, like, oh, I know that. I know that if I just, center myself before I'm around so and so person who keeps showing up in my life, I know I'll be better. I'll be happier if I can just like tune into what's real before so and so shows up. We know that, but there's something about having someone hold space for you, either through an energy healing session, or maybe you have a therapist, or maybe you have a book club. I mean, it's amazing how there can be so many different ways that we can have that connection that you were talking about, and that it unfolds, you know, our truth. It's like it unfolds our truth more deeply, and then we can kind of be more present and relax into our life instead of like feeling stressed about our life and like we have to control everything and like life is scary.
I'm not sure which order I want to ask these questions in. I have like a bunch of things coming up. I'm curious about, I'm curious about what the modality that you have incorporated into your healing practice, what it has done for you. And then I would also like to hear more description. You gave us a cursory description at the beginning. I would love to hear more description around what that looks like and feels like.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Those are both great questions, and they're kind of intertwined. So perfect. So reconnective healing is the main. Okay, there are three ways that you can work with me. Anyone watching can work with me. One is to have a 1 hour reconnective healing session, which I often refer to as an energy alignment appointment. So, and I get to be in the frequencies, and you are. Typically, these have been remote. Most of my clients are in their own home, maybe on a couch or on their bed, and then I'm here over my massage table in my office. I'm working over my massage table,
Seen
and
the
then at
pictures on
the
your
end of
website. I love that.
yeah, it is so amazing. And this is the quantum piece that you are an expert of, like you've studied this stuff. So it's amazing that, because I thought when I got trained in that I had to be in the same room as you, even though it's a non-touch modality, hands-off modality. I still thought I had to be in the same room as you. And then as we were training, they gave us these slips of paper and were like, okay, now you're going to have Pedro in Brazil and you're going to have a 15-minute session with him. And then you're going to call him and you're going to help him integrate by asking these questions. And I was like, what? What now? And I could not believe it. And this happened multiple times. multiple people, and some of them I even still email today. There's a person in on Orcas Island off of Washington State, and like it's just amazing. So and then like we exchanged email addresses, and I'm just like, so how's your back feeling? Because that was what drew him in, was back pain. Okay, I majorly digressed there. I
That's okay.
apologize. So then the second way to work with me is through this group program. And I guess that's part of your second question. But the group program, that's the guidance, the support, the accountability. And yes, it takes courage to enroll, but I'll start there then, I guess. So deep dives. So I refer to a deep dive as any kind of introspective, immersive experience. And I was trained on that by doctors Ron and Mary Holnick at the University of Santa Monica, and it is spiritual psychology. So it's and the course, the modality that we were diving into is soul-centered living. So how do we get out of the how do we get out of the external based existence and more into the internal based existence? Like how can we feel good internally, and then the external life, tangible things, physical things, results, external results, then that's a benefit. So it's like the soul line and then the goal line. So like the internal is like the soul line goals, or soul line being, and then goal line being. Okay, so the program. So the Awakening Freedom Method is about deep dives. So we're going to dive deep into you connecting with who you really are. The innate imprint that you're already making on your own heart and mind. Like who is that? Who is Amanda really? What does Amanda really want? What are the values that are
Doesn't always
really
know.
Wait, what was that?
She doesn't always know.
That's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more work we do, the more deep dives, and a deep dive could be breath work. A deep dive could be tapping. A deep dive could be journal prompt. A
Could you
deep
tell
dive.
people real quick what is tapping? Not everybody might know what that means.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. What is freedom technique? Oh my gosh. Now
I think it's emotional freedom technique. Yeah.
yes. And so you typically you're tapping on a meridian line. And a woman I can recommend to people do you walk people through tapping as well?
Sometimes I'm not
Okay.
trained,
Okay.
but so I will do it for people for free.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll help people with that. But yeah, I want
Awesome.
to hear who your contact is. I'm wondering if it's the same one that I have.
Yeah.
So I
So in my circle, so oftentimes the Awakening Freedom Method, I utilize it I shouldn't say it is the method I utilize in the Awakening Freedom Circle for people who want to work with me. Anywho, we have guest coaches come in, and we had a woman named Jess Smith.
Okay.
And what surprised me about EFT was that she was having us start on like what wasn't working. So it's like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now.
Right.
I'm feeling like so and so I'm really struggling with my relationship with so and so. Like I think it's under the arm. I'm really
Yeah.
bothered.
Yeah. It's
Like
like
the like
here.
yeah. And
And
so she
then
took us through the whole thing. And then after the acknowledgement of like what's not working, yeah, the top of the head, like I know, under the eye. And so she walked us through what wasn't working. I'm feeling, and she got feedback from our group about and like overwhelm was one of them. I feel like a lot of humans have a tendency to get overwhelmed. So the focus was overwhelmed. But then what I loved is as we kept tapping, then it was like, I know I can I know I'm getting through this. I love myself anyway. I have the power to make good life choices. Like it was just lovely. So I was finding that EFT, that's a great example of a deep dive, immersive experience about like reawakening to what's true
yeah.
instead of
And
the focusing on what your doubt is or your concern or your worry. That's like a toilet bowl, you know, focus. But
yeah.
and I feel as though a deep dive is the goal is to open you up to all the other things that are true besides just like I'm worried about this thing. There's so much more truth available besides this one truth of like, this isn't working.
And that's really a great example of why I have you here today, which is, EFT is one of the techniques that you can use where you're definitely going to get a quantum leap in how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's going to change, what happens around you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to hear, what kind of miracles have you witnessed
Mm-hmm.
using your techniques for some of your clients?
Mm-hmm.
That whatever is that you feel is okay to share with the
Yeah.
people here listening.
One of the best ones was that after just a couple of sessions with me, we did an energy session and then we had another 1 hour session together, which I refer to as a wisdom chat. And so just in 2 sessions, this woman was really struggling with transition, with feeling like she had been like a super athlete in high school and college, very free, very creative, architecture background. And then such a similar story to mine. Got married, chose a safer job, doesn't feel like this particular job, even though she's in the same field, doesn't feel very creative in it. So these huge pieces, her self-expression, which for her was like athleticism and creative expression, those were her joy. And so our time together was really like, how do we rekindle, even if it even if you're not still on, the track team, the college track team or whatever it is, how can we together, by us just being together, being in connection, and you having this energy session, and we get to have a deep dive. And I took her through a couple of deep dives, experience where she gets to like look inside of herself. But then she recently called me, and she is doing the thing. She's creating the thing, the creative outlet. The thing she decided that she wanted most was to start buying homes and refurbishing them, and either selling or renting. But she was afraid. She's like, it's a big financial investment. And she was totally living in the toilet. She was in the like worst case scenario. The only outcome she could see is that they would lose their money and they would end up bankrupt, and then they would be homeless, and all this stuff. So, and I had actually walked her through that. Like, okay, if then what? Okay, then you make this choice. Okay, then you're bankrupt. Okay, then what? Okay, then you're out on the street. Okay, then you all freeze. And then she saw, oh my gosh, that's very ridiculous. Like, that's actually, we have so much family that could support us. She started to see all the other truth opportunities besides just the worst case scenario. So now she tells me they have already purchased one of the homes. She's been sketching and drawing like how they're gonna gut it and how they're going to redo it. And she is lit up. She's lit up because she created it. And I mean, I'm going to get emotional, but she was like, Andrea, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't talked to you. So
That's amazing.
that feels pretty amazing. Yeah.
Very
And it
good.
was just by, like you said, like these quantum leaps can happen. And you're right. Also, there's just so many modalities. Maybe it's reconnective healing with me. Maybe it's tapping with Jess. Maybe it's, I just have this vision of people coming to your property and like working the land and like
Yeah.
camping and then like going on nature hikes. I mean, something like that, that is so much time. Really, how often do we slow down, especially as Americans, but how often do we slow
Right.
down? So that kind of experience, whatever you choose, whatever modality you choose, if you have a guide, if you have support, if you can keep, call those people back at some point, get some accountability, and all of that takes so much courage. And just look at what you, like this woman, I'm just so proud of her. And also now I'm inspired. I'm like, yeah, where is there anywhere I've been scared and playing the worst case scenario and not taking the leap? And so to know that I can support people in creating that for themselves feels pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
That's a really great story. And,
Yeah.
sometimes we resist and we push back on what it is that we really want for the longest time. And, I know that's part of your story and it's part of my story, and it's how we connected to
Mhm.
be here today. And we want other people to not have to go through that. And
Mhm.
if you knew that you were only going to get one session with a person
Mm.
to make a difference for them,
Mhm.
what would you do? How would that look?
Well, looking at the recipe that worked with this other individual, I would say a 2 hour time block, a 2 hour time block where I would make sure that you get to fill something out first, like a few questions. So I kind of know that you're already sort of marinating in like what's present for you. What do you want? And maybe what are you struggling with? What is your ideal outcome? So a little bit of maybe just a few questions that they could experience to get ready. And then we would definitely go into the reconnective healing frequencies together. And that's, they get to lie down and then I move over my table and connect them. Typically, people have messages come in, or maybe you see some cool visuals, or maybe you feel some tingles. Or, yeah, it's really, I find the most amazing ones are when you see something behind your eyelids, or your imagination kind of unfolds something that's just for you, or a message like a voice or something. So, all sorts of that stuff happens. And then afterwards, I get to support you by kind of record it. I record that for the person, what was present during the frequency part. And then I think in the last hour, I would go even deeper and kind of by using my intuition, see what it is that they need. Like, where are they holding themselves back? And what have they said that they want, but they're not um, creating it or they're not being it? So what's the hang up? So
Yeah.
by checking in, I would see like, is it a guided visualization that we get to go through together? Is it, do I walk you through, like that's an example, like take you down the rabbit hole of the doomsdayness that you're doing. Like, let's walk you all the way through it so you can really get a 40,000 foot view and see how that's not actually the truth. What you've been creating up here is you're just, like you said earlier, we project, like we become witnesses to what we imagine here first,
Right. Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I would just tune in on how best to support them in that last hour together. And yeah, that seems to be what rockets people back onto their path.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a lot of description of what I consider to be like ways to skip the matrix, which I think includes, belief systems and philosophies. How do skipping the matrix and going straight to like the quantum source energy, the
Mhm.
purity of it. Could you just succinctly go through some steps that, or a process that you use or have taught
Mhm.
for everybody right now so that they get to hear this and try it out?
Yeah, yes, I can give you a piece of one of the processes.
Okay.
So when we are feeling some overwhelm, maybe when we're feeling stuck in the matrix and we would like to create the 40,000 foot view of the matrix, but not be sucked into it.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of us, it's an amazing gift to give yourself CPR. And CPR is getting clear, prioritizing, and restoring responsibility.
Okay.
Getting clear, prioritizing, and restoring responsibility. Maybe I'll give you two pieces of it. So for me, clearing is really about getting present. So clearing your aura, clearing your field. And I find breath work is one of my favorite ways to do that. I'm sure a lot of you here have heard of the four corner breath, which is just inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4,
Yeah.
hold for 4. So you're making this, beautiful box. And I loved what Thich Nhat Hanh guided, which is on your in breath, you say to yourself, I know this is my in breath. And then you hold. I know this is my out breath. And then you hold. And there's something that kind of gets you out of your lizard brain, that gets you out of and I know I'm kind of just throwing out that term, but when we are in fight, flight, freeze, appease, when we're triggered, when we're triggered, going back to ages ago, it's like, the whole saber-toothed tiger thing.
Mm.
And so your compassion and your logic are not online so much, but the different parts of your brain that activate like your body are much more online because you probably need to run away from the tiger, or maybe you need to fight the tiger. So it's so interesting. I think this is why so many of us get so verbally, we can get very verbally caustic when someone upsets us, when we feel upset in a situation with someone, because we're in the lizard brain.
Mhm.
We're in the fight, flight, freeze, appease brain. So therefore, coming back to the breath. So I find that a great way to clear, a great way to bring your compassionate, logical brain back online is through breath. And I just gave you one, but people clear in many different ways. Another great one is just to simply tap your thumbnail into the pad of your middle finger, like the tip of your middle finger, and breathing in. So then you've got a physical thing happening and you're breathing. So I love that one for clearing. So prioritize is, once you're out of the lizard brain, you make better decisions. So you're better able to prioritize. And I can go into that one deeper another time. But then lastly, restore responsibility. Restoring responsibility, I feel, could be a lot of different things to different people, but basically it's two things. I think it's either get into action about something that you've been avoiding. I feel like you can restore responsibility with yourself by acting on something that you've been procrastinating on. Like, I feel like action is one of them, but another great way to restore responsibility is to have a clearing conversation with yourself. Like, Andrea, I know how you were showing up this morning, of like trying to just squeeze in one more thing before your interview. And I know how that stresses you out. And so you deserve better than that. I'm sorry for procrastinating and trying to add more onto your list. Going forward, I will do a better job, or going forward, I recommit. I recommit to clearing my schedule and giving myself more time in between appointments or in between responsibilities that I've declared. So how's that landing for you in regards to a clearing conversation with yourself?
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Those are some really great suggestions for getting out of your matrix brain. I
Yeah.
I love that you're calling it fight, flight, freeze, appease.
Yeah.
There's so much of that appeasing that goes on
Mhm.
that really messes us all up, because then
Yeah.
we're trying to do for others what they should be doing for themselves. I really love that
Yes.
piece. I
Yes.
just wanted to honor you for
Oh,
including that in the reptilian brain that we all keep back
mhm.
here for
And
emergency.
I think for women especially, I know for me, part of that, giving, it's the giving away the power. I feel like that fight, flight, freeze, appease. I think appease is just like, say whatever I need to say to make the hurting stop. Like, this
Yeah,
is feeling stressful, so I'm just going to give you all the power, and I'm just going to make myself as small as I can. Yeah, I think for me, it's that appease part is like disempowerment,
yeah,
big time.
yeah, for sure.
Here, you can have
Yeah.
all the power. I just want to not feel stressed. So here you go. And now it's your fault if it gets all messed up. I'm not to blame because I gave you all my power, and now if my life sucks, it's your fault. Ooh,
Right. This
yeah.
has been, I feel, a really vital conversation for our listeners. My whole goal and intention is to offer everybody ways that they get to live an easy life, because that's our sovereign birthright, is to live with ease and abundance.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's anything else that we haven't covered that you think is important for everybody to hear today that we could talk about for a few more minutes.
I think I would just repeat again that you're worth it. Whatever is the thing that you've been saying that you want and you've been denying yourself, or you've been talking yourself out of it, I think you're worth it. I think you're worth at least taking one tiny step, even if the first step is just research, just researching the thing that you Maybe it's a retreat. Maybe it's an investment. Maybe it's a trip. Maybe it's, who knows what it is. Maybe it's becoming a manicurist. I don't know. Whatever, whatever the thing is that's kind of been the knocking on the heart. I talk about this, the knock. If you're feeling a knocking on your heart and you've been feeling it a while, but you keep telling it to just be quiet, that my piece for you would be, you're worth it. And just one step, make a phone call, do some research, whatever it is, just one step towards that, whatever the knocking is. That's my biggest piece to leave you with.
I think that's great. And I know you have a free gift that's going to be included. And I would love if you could share where people can find you. It will also be in the email that goes out. But for the note takers, I always offer this moment where you can
Awesome.
share where people can find you.
Yes. Interestingly, and now I'm wondering which one I sent you because I have a 10 ways video series, and it's 10 ways to move beyond your old story. And I've rewritten it as a PDF for those of us that have a high inner critic,
Mhm.
that have the voice that's talking you out of doing the things you want to do. So there's a PDF version that is the 10 ways to silence your inner critic. But then you can get that on video as well.
Yeah.
So if you go to AndreaLuzon.com, and Luzon is Luzon. So AndreaLuzon.com, and it'll say free gift right at the top. But I know that Amanda will make sure to
Yeah,
have a link
it'll be
here.
linked in the email.
Yeah.
If there's more than one, I would encourage everybody to go to Andrea's website and see what else is there. So I think it would be a really wonderful experience for everybody. Andrea, thanks so much for being here with me today. I just really, really appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much.
I appreciate the invitation, and I love what you're creating, and I'm hoping to come visit, because the picture behind you, I'm like, oh,
I
that
know.
looks like
You
such
should
a
see it
fun
now.
place.
It's so green now. I need an updated picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I bet it is. Yes.
Yeah.
All the rainfall.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.